This is Diana Maul Halstead, the Kriegie's daughter, welcoming you to the Barbed Wire Hotel, where stories of courage, resilience, and the human spirit are honored and preserved. There are men you meet in life who wear their service like a well-worn leather jacket, weathered, comfortable, unpretentious, and full of stories. Charlie Fellous is one of those men. Drafted in 1966 and tossed into the whirlwind of basic training at Fort Leonard Wood, Charlie didn't just survive, he thrived. From reluctant college student to squad leader, drill instructor, and combat engineer in Vietnam, Charlie brought grit, humor, and a whole lot of heart to every post he held. He served during one of the most tumultuous times in American military history, the Tet Offensive, and carried out his duties with courage, humility, and a stubborn sense of responsibility to his country, his comrades, and his family. But this interview isn't just about war. It's about a young man from Chesterfield, Missouri, with a love for baseball and horses, who learned to lead men under fire, to laugh through chaos, and to carry memories that still echo decades later. Charlie's warmth, honesty, and quick wit make it impossible not to smile, even when the stories are heavy. His account reminds us that patriotism doesn't always come wrapped in medals. It often shows up in day-to-day bravery, in a willingness to serve, and in friendships that last a lifetime. He'll be the first to tell you he's no hero. We respectfully disagree. Welcome to this conversation with Charlie Fellous, Vietnam veteran, drill sergeant, bridge builder, literally, and one of the good guys. Charlie, yes. I want to thank you and welcome you to the Barbed Wire Hotel.
Thank you.
What branch of the military did you serve?
United States Army.
Did you enlist or were you drafted?
Drafted.
Okay, you were drafted.
Yes, December 6th, 1966 at the Mart Building downtown. We were sworn in. They did a quick physical, and everybody's lined up. And they herd you on these buses. And however long it took to get down to Fort Leonard Wood, that's where he did basic training. And then, of course, the DIs are yelling and screaming at you. I was 19.
You graduated from high school?
Yes, and I went a year of college, but I was a pitiful student. Evidently, my IQ was good enough, but my attention to go into class, I'd rather go play baseball or ride horses.
Something fun.
Yeah.
College was not a fun thing.
No. They had me in an honors class. I don't know how in geography, and I'm like,
where did you go to high school?
Lafayette High School. Graduated in 1965.
What was your family dynamic like?
It was great. My dad and mom, my brother, who also served in Vietnam. My dad, he was in the Marine Corps. He worked and retired from a company you might know, a 905 liquor company. And he had a big store down on Brentwood across from Waldo Fuse. And it's not the Galleria, it was Westroads then. And my mom, he wouldn't let her work until we were probably in high school. But they met in Washington, D.C. after he got out of the Marines. She worked for the Navy Department. They're both from Southern Illinois. They just met. Mom, I've got a picture. I mean, she was looked like a movie star to me. And Dad, I guess he was pretty good looking. We had a great upbringing, and we just recently sold their house in Chesterfield, moved there in 62. It was like 59 years, overlooking the Chesterfield Valley.
Was that sad to sell it?
It was kind of emotional because, you would go there after my mother died, and you could almost hear the laughter and the joy in the property, the views, it's just spectacular. We could ride our horses down long.
Your dad was in the Marine in World War II.
Yes.
Did he go to Iwo Jima?
Yeah, his last major campaign was Iwo Jima.
What wave?
He was in the third. He wasn't in the first one. He was in artillery, And my Uncle Charlie was in the 1st Marine Division. I don't think they were engaged in that. He was in a terrible bloodbath called Peleliu. I think we lost 1,600 Marines in that one. A lot more than, I mean, the Vietnam thing was bad enough because really look back and say, why? Like a lot of stuff. Korea, how many people know about Korea?
You know, I'm having a hard time finding people that fought in Korea.
They're all gone. We're the oldest bunch now.
Yeah. Did your dad ever talk about his World War II?
Not a whole lot. He talked about when they landed in one of the islands because of bombing, whatever. And he was like my height, 5'6", 5'7", at my best. Went under and one of his buddies pulled him out, and then they turned over a truck. He never got shot, and neither did my uncle. My uncle stayed in after that and was in China, came back here, stayed in the reserves, and then had to go back to Korea because he wanted to get his pilot's license. So he stayed in the Marine Corps, and then he was done. He was an iron worker then.
When was your dad discharged?
He was discharged, he had to be 45.
That was when he came
Was
home,
done.
trying to get to where he met your mom.
In Washington, D.C. And she grew up in southern Illinois around Sparta. And Dad was born in Johnston City, not too far away, Marion, Illinois. His first name was Marion.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
And I asked him why didn't he name me or my brother Steve. He said, I think you would have gotten too many fist fights or whatever. But nobody messed with my dad too much. He was very
Well, he's a Marine.
very popular.
Somebody that goes into the
Well, he
Marines
was just a
yeah.
popular guy. Newspaper articles about him when he retired. Joe Pollock, the man around town.
I remember Joe Powell. And then you were born in 47.
Yeah.
And went to Lafayette and you were drafted.
Yes.
Once you went through the physical.
In St. Louis.
And then where did you go?
To Fort Leonard Wood. And right from there to the barracks, because it was late that night. And it was strange because we were in the brick barracks that looked like a dorm. There was like 4 of us per room, or maybe 6. And then, of course, they shave your head and yell at you some more and give you some uniforms. And January at Fort Leonard Wood wasn't so good. The weather cycle was much colder then. And you had wool long johns, and you could barely traipse along in your hats. And it's kind of brutal, really.
And you're getting ready to go to Vietnam that is humid and hot.
Yes, but there's several months more after basic training.
Now, how long did you spend in basic training?
2 months, 8 weeks. And then for some reason, I went to a leadership preparation course. It was 2 weeks. Then I went to AIT, or Advanced Individual Training, for another 2 months as a combat engineer. So I was a squad leader. That's why I went to this leadership preparation thing. And a lot of my friends were infantry, of course, a lot of them at that time. And I knew several of the guys in my draft class. The draft office was in Webster Groves because Chesterfield was too remote back then. But we all pretty much, all of our buddies, we all ended up over there. Lost a few. I wanted to be an airborne guy. I don't know why. And the company commander, my AIT unit, called me to the office and said, I have a class date for drill instructor school. And he said, you won't have to go to Vietnam. Your overseas will be frozen. And I thought, wow, I live in Chesterfield. Fort Leonard Wood's only an hour and a half away. I had a girlfriend, my mom and dad. And so I went to the drill instructor school, graduated from that, and then was assigned to a training unit. And my first full cycle, which would be 8 weeks, then there's usually a break. And the last cycle that I was there before I ended up going in 1968 then, so it was in 67. I took one of our recruits that didn't make it through the shooting range, so I was assigned to get him to pass that. I took him to the range, and he didn't shoot a lot, but I passed him. He had to shoot 45 out of 60 somewhere, and he got a little enraged at that. I don't know why he just didn't be a conscientious objector.
Is there a chance he wasn't a good shooter because
he didn't want
to?
Right.
Oh.
So I fudged,
Oh.
And then when we came back, the unit I was with, basic training unit, they had built what they call Alcoa Heights, and they were metal buildings, like this platoon. So you have probably 5 platoons, 125 people. And the senior drill instructors loved me because I wasn't married. And I put them to bed and got them up every morning, got them in detail. And so I come back, the new cycle was there. I'm looking, look some more. My best friend, Jim Gerst, is drafted.
Oh,
he was
okay.
drafted before I was, but he had some knee issues. But as time went on, they overlooked the knee issues. We laugh about that. I still see him. He was up north. I was in 3 Corps. Finally, I ended up in Vietnam. It was a real hot time, 1968, that offensive.
When you were in drill instructor training.
Yes. It was
How
tough.
was that?
It's tough. Well, you got to be physically fit, super fit. I taught PT for company size, where you're up on a platform. And the weapons we carried weighed about 9 pounds. And you would use those basically, hold them out there to tell you're quivering. And we ran or marched pretty much everywhere, except some of the far ranges at Fort Leonard Wood, the rifle ranges and the stuff we did out on the river, the Piney River, Big Piney, floating bridges and things of that nature for training.
But how was your training to be a drill?
It was a 2-month deal.
But did they teach you how to yell? And
they taught us.
Because that's what I see on TV, which doesn't make it right. Doesn't.
No, things were getting better then, but I saw some pretty rough treatment.
Oh, Gomer Pyle.
Yeah. But
his guy yelling at him.
Yeah. And there was some physical abuse. And then we had some people from the south side of Chicago. And when it came to bayonet training and stuff, I'd say, you take that. These guys know how to use knives and stuff. Back then, if your police record wasn't superb, you sometimes had a choice. You either go in the military or you go to jail. But we got through all that. And it's the way it was. Yeah. It was a broad net when I left there in November of '68, we still had 500,000 troops. And the support us in the field takes 3 to 4 people behind, because we had Air Force support, the Rolling Thunder, bombing North. Yeah, it was, because it didn't end until '75. After I got in country, the unit I was assigned to, an infantry unit, we were trained in demolitions, minesweeping roads too. So I couldn't get to that unit. There was too much going on. And I ended up with the 168 Combat Engineering Battalion, and nobody was at the base camp. I go, what's going on? Well, they were in the field, and they come rolling, and so I'm a new guy. And we're called out. 2 days later, I got a flak jacket, which is wouldn't really stop a bullet. And I guess because I was fresh there, we leave the gate, and our mission was to minesweep a road to a small town of Tuduck, and I was one of the guys. So you look back, there's the tanks, and you're out there, pretty, the real deal. And it was real dusty. It wasn't in the monsoons, and the Phantom jets were dropping napalm. We were getting small arm fire, and that's when I wanted to go back to the gumbo bottoms in Chesterfield. Yeah.
How long did you spend as a drill sergeant?
If we work backwards, it had to be January, February, then March, April for AIT, and then another 2 months, May, June. So I did July to the end of the year in '67. I would have been assigned to a drill sergeant class. I always thought those were the hardened soldiers and that. Well, there were some life soldiers there, NCOs, but what they taught us was the basic training stuff. The uniformity, the commands, get everybody together, physical fitness. But I got sent to Vietnam along with about 300.
When did you find out you were going to Vietnam?
I put it on my mind, but it had to be November of '67. And then I got in country. That started they gave me 30 days They closed the fort down, and then I got a call to go down and get shots and qualify with the M16, and they gave me 30 days vacation, I guess. And so I got in country. I was assigned to a light infantry battalion. And then my friend said, well, those are bastard battalions because none of them have family. I think maybe they were lying to me just to make me. And so got in country, got assigned.
Where did you land in country?
We were in Benoit, and you could already see the burned up armored personnel, some bodies. Concertina, there was a huge ammo base there at Long Bend. We were just out. Our base camp was Zion. That's what we called it. Tourism's a big deal there, and some of my buddies went back. I didn't want to go back. I always took a camera if I could, and they flew me around to some different places, and yeah, thought I was gonna perish a time or two, and came home.
When did you come home?
November 25th or so, 1968.
Time for Thanksgiving.
And Mom and Dad picked me up in the rain. It was when I went in, it was raining at Lambert, and my mom, hugged you and your stuff. But we didn't care. Next day, you're sitting at a dinner table with friends and family. It's quite a transition.
Over just a few hours.
Yeah.
What was the most challenging part of your service?
Well, I think it was relating at a young age to and be a squad leader in a combat scenario. It was one thing in the training aspect of it as well, but I'm thinking I was a terrible student. But evidently, I did well, or I wouldn't have been put in those positions.
Well, didn't they test you when you were in
Yeah, oh yeah. I had an opportunity to go to officers candidate school, but you might have been in a year or so before you even got a class date. And I'm sure it would have been infantry or something like that. So I didn't do that.
Don't they extend your time to serve as well?
Yeah, I think you give them 3 years or something after that. But I knew, like when I was in Vietnam, they had a competition, Soldier of the Month for the 20th Engineer Brigade. And I guess they saw my record of Fort Leonard Wood being a drill instructor. And I won that competition for the whole.
Congratulations.
Yeah. And even when my brother came, so the photographs and promotions and things like that. So offered me, I think it was $6,000 or $8,000 to re-enlist. But I had a pretty good idea I might be back because I taught a jungle class for the 1st Infantry Division. I don't know why. I was the guy mines and booby traps, and ended up taking some of these guys that had never thrown a hand grenade, kind of maybe like me passing the guy on the shooting range. So I had them do that. I had no itinerary, just a classroom, and then outside there, I showed them how to use det cord, which looks like clothesline, but it detonates at 1,100 feet per second. So I would show, I wasn't with anybody, but they would show the combatants that were captured prisoners of war what they would do, and they would just tie them up and march them in. And
doesn't that blow them up?
Well, if they misbehaved, they just showed them what. And then our base camp, when we were there, we were right on the perimeter. And 2 or 3 of my squad members that I was in charge of were on the perimeter. And we had a prisoner of war camp in that base. And one of the prisoners was out, but they all lived around. They weren't North Vietnamese, they were Viet Cong. No different than our revolution, I guess, if you think about it. And I heard an M79 grenade launcher. It's a big round, and get up. And our guys had this prisoner of war sitting on a cot. This is all in the dark, of course. We didn't have any lights going during that time period for at least 3 or 4 months on base, but they knew where we were. I mean, 1st Infantry Division's a big deal. And he ran over the young man that shot at him with this M79. I mean, you would shoot it and it would explode versus a projectile out of a rifle. And we also had the search dog team on that base camp, and they were Labradors. He ran over the berm, and we had landmines there. concertina wire. And he's just wearing shorts. And when they would come into base camp, they'd have a hood over them, you know, put them in this confinement area. And never could find him. He was gone. And we had anti-personnel mines are basically the size of a big can of shoe polish. And you take a sledgehammer and make a hole and set it. It's a pressure thing, so if you step on it, it wouldn't kill you necessarily, but mess you up pretty bad. And then command detonated stuff and machine guns, and then the towers, you'd be in there in the middle of the night, and I'm like, wow, they know right where we're sitting. This is the way it was.
But you never found the guy?
Then there was a big deal about, because when you're in base camp, you really don't walk around with a locked and loaded weapon because accidents can happen. And there was a big mess because the guy got away. Well, it's kind of hard. How do you regulate that? If you're on guard duty, that's a different deal.
But you had mines all over the place. How did he avoid those?
Because they're there. However, the perimeter is guarded by command detonated stuff too.
All right.
Like, so you got a big board there and you hit that. Because I ended up towards the end of my time there detonating all the stuff. And the officers and reporters were watching all that. And so we went to the next station. I walked out in front and one of the Claymore mines detonated. It shouldn't have by heat. You can shoot C4 explosive, it won't go off unless it's detonated. Never could figure out how that happened. You could hear it go by. Get me home.
What was the most rewarding part of your service?
I think meeting friends from the day I was drafted that we're still buddies now. Live in Kirkwood, Farmington, Missouri.
Isn't that amazing?
Illinois. I was in some of their weddings. They were in mine.
How about that?
Jane and I were married in 1971. I had a good job with Nabisco, trailing around all those people. It was a big deal. Then I decided to be in business for myself.
A lot of times when you're drafted and you get your physical,
sure,
you're lined up with a ton of guys.
That's true.
And you never see them again.
It's uniform. That's true. And the whole process of that, the idea is to work as a team. So that's why they shave your heads. If you think about it, I couldn't legally vote. I couldn't legally drink, but I could carry a weapon. And I guess the guys, World War II, there was a World War II. They didn't even know when they were coming home. We had a DERO stay.
Your stay was a year, right?
Yes, but mine was actually a little short of that because I was still here. I didn't get in Vietnam till probably February 1st or something, because they gave me the 30-day off deal. I'm not sure why that. It's just you accumulate time, you get leave. But yeah.
Did you go on leave ever?
I went on an R&R. After I won that one competition, they sent me and Terry Manker, who lives in Columbia, Illinois, on a 72-hour R&R in country. And Bung Tao was like beaches, and you're supposed to sign into the place where you're supposed to stay, but we stayed in a hotel next door for another day before we signed in because we didn't really want to go back. Didn't get in trouble. Because once you get in that compound, you're kind of in there. And we wanted to see what was going on and being young people. And then I went to Taiwan for a week.
How was that?
I thought it was beautiful. It was Jade Lake and sightsee, and you don't really have any civilian clothes, so it's like at an airport, got hush puppy shoes on, double mitts, whatever. And you're looking for women and drinking. I never got involved with drugs, thank God, because drinking can be just as bad. And then they fly you back, and there you are, going, oh boy.
You go from paradise to hell in a heartbeat.
Yeah, for sure. And I couldn't really spend any money there. I was in this base camp, and then we were in the field. That's where it was really got dangerous.
What was the hairiest
Well,
situation?
thinking you're going to die. Nighttime, the river, you're pinned down. Airstrikes at nighttime aren't good. Medevacs aren't good. And seeing the dead combatants the next day, being thankful. We built a floating bridge, and that newspaper article, it was the largest one on the Dong Nai River, and we crossed the 11th Armored Cavalry, which was 200 mechanized tanks, APCs, which is Armored Personnel Carriers. And I had been in a Special Forces camp, Camp Bernard. Prior to that, they flew me up there. We had some guys minesweeping roads, and a C-130 landed on the airstrip, and it was just gravel. C-130 is a big transport plane. And they went down the runway. When I got off the helicopter, somebody tapped me on the shoulder, and it was a Air Force colonel. Says, "Sergeant, can you get your guys off?" Yes. I didn't know the C-130 was landing up there. And it was just gravel, and they turned around and pushed big pallets of supplies, and I'm thinking, what is this? What's going on? And I saw the turret of a tank and the big gun that was dug in. But I still didn't put two and two together. They flew me back. I was only there for a day or two, and they said, "You got to get back to base." And in the helicopter, there was a slick. We didn't have guns. I mean, we had guns on us. And there was a couple surveyors and my second lieutenant. We landed in this beautiful valley, river, and they did some sightings, wrote down whatever, surveyors. And we got back in, and they flew me the next day for that competition of Soldier of the Month deal. And then I got pictures of the convoy. 2 days later, we were there and built that bridge and crossed. You could hear the rumble of the tanks. And they got on the bridge. I'm like, is it going to float? I mean, they're big. We did that all in 72 hours. Started taking it down, and that's when, I'm not sure why they attacked us after the 11th Dark Horse Cavalry came across the river. We had already crossed successfully, and then started tearing down the bridge.
So you only built the bridge to cross it?
That's right.
Okay, and then once you cross it, you tear it down so that they can't get over?
Well, that was the only way to cross that many people over that river. It was 1,000 foot across. And whoever designed the search and destroy, which is where you go out and search and destroy everything in your way. That was the philosophy. And we were there to clean up.
You built it and then you had to clean up after yourself? Or
Yeah,
after they
it has to be
destroyed it?
dismantled. No, the enemy didn't, but the enemy I saw, we disposed of. We're wearing shorts and sandals with RPG rounds and stuff. That's what, they were that close to us. We should have cleared a better site, wider, but it still would have probably happened. And at nighttime, it's like you're worn out. They tell me they're going to recon by fire. That means just shoot. Somebody knew something was going on. And then the booms and the tear gas on the armored vehicles that got blown up, and it was a mess.
And you can't unsee?
No. I don't know how many combatants we killed that night or how many wounded. Because there was also a company of 1st Infantry Division there. There were different engineering factors because we had cranes and stuff. We were combat engineers. We had the human bodies to put it together. And we had some river boats to get everything in position. But I did see the dead people. Yeah.
Can't unsee that.
Mm-mm.
What was the funniest thing that happened?
Seeing my buddy Jim Gerst and having my other drill sergeant go up and breathe on him. And I didn't want him in my platoon for any kind of favoritism or whatever. And it was very cold, and we all fall out, you know, and we get the guys up and they go eat stuff. And we're going to go on our way. And my buddy Jim comes out and he's got his ball cap on and no gloves. Private Gerst decides uniform of the day is going to be baseball caps and no gloves. I thought sure he was going to really get beat up that night. So that was pretty funny.
That is funny. That is good.
And then we'd be in, you know, you're not old enough to drink legally. And that's where I saw people taking pictures of beer, 3-2 beer, and pouring tomato juice in it, tomato beer or whatever.
I've never heard of that.
I had never seen it either. But that was the thing. And some of the guys, I mean, if you can envision in the old barracks where the toilets are, there's no petitions, just a bunch of guys in there doing their business and shaving and trying to get dressed so you can be in formation, make your bed. And it was pretty tense when you're doing it. And then I lived with them for those 4 or 5 months and see what they went through, because where we were, they had there was no toilets or anything. You went to a shower area, and it was pretty cold. In fact, when I first got drafted in December, a big tornado went through St. Louis. 66, it hit River Bend. I think it took the tower down there at Hampton, or Channel 2. That's where 905, my dad had a store down there then.
Across from Famous Bar, there was a 905.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked across the street at Bauer Sox Insurance.
There you go. And Bauer Sox, too, my business in the printing business, I did a lot of work for architects. And there were some Bauer Sox, all these HOK and all those big companies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bauer, it was Hampton, Kings Highway, Chippewa.
Yeah. But the Channel 2 tower or whatever, they never did rebuild that.
Interesting.
And DePaul Hospital was there, and the zoo.
Right there on Hampton and the zoo. Yeah.
And then they opened an international store downtown on Market.
Really?
Next to the American Salvation Army. Had a big sign. And then they opened another big store. They moved my dad out there by Clayton.
Yeah.
Jane and I went to a happy hour at the Twisted Tree.
I've heard of the Twisted Tree.
That's owned by the Cyber Group. It's on Watson, Lindbergh. You go in the restaurant, it's a higher end restaurant. And I go in the main dining room and they got a big original old 905 sign in there.
Really?
And the name of the company came to pass because their address was 905 Delmar.
Can you believe that?
Yes. And the Weissmans bought it. There was a couple liquor companies, Peoples, and then 905. So the Weissmans worked for, and I think their background was pharmaceutical and stuff. But at one time, there was like 54 stores, 905
There were a
stores.
lot. It's like that was the liquor store you went to.
And my dad ended up getting people jobs at Jim Gerst, and kids that we went to school with graduated from Mizzou, and they ended up managers at 905. And then they moved on because Pet bought them out.
Back in Vietnam, what did you normally eat?
So Egg Company was there. Up the road, you know, we'd vine sweep a section of the road. And we had a little, like, cafeteria, mess hall. And then you drank, a lot of your water was just in the big canvas bags full of water. It didn't taste good, you know, none of that stuff. And showering was basically non-potable water in tanks, and the sun would get it warm. And you would take a shower.
That was what I was wondering. So it was cold showers or...
Yeah.
Because my dad, when he was a prisoner of war, he was able to take one cold shower for 2 minutes every 2 months.
Yeah, that's not good. That's true because all the barracks or the billet, whatever you'd want to call them, were just set up basically for one platoon or squad. So you had to go to they had the burn pits back then too, where all of the waste was burned with diesel fuel and whatnot. That wasn't good.
That doesn't even sound healthy.
It's not. In fact, if all of the guys in, Afghanistan, Iraq, they've got a lot of issues. And even I've got a claim with the AFib because with the Agent Orange, we defoliated a lot.
How was your family affected by your service?
They were worried. The war was coming to them every day at 6 o'clock on the news. Told my dad I was going to enlist in the Marines, and he said, "You're not." He said, "You're going to go for the shortest amount of time." Although the Marine Corps were getting a certain percentage of draftees. Air Force, same way.
Were you able to write to your family? And
Yes.
They received your mail? And...
Yes. And I got gifts from food and
Oh, did you?
Nabisco cheese you'd squirt on crackers. They had some care
That
packages.
was new back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still around. And that was my first real job.
What is that? That's not Cheese Whiz. That's
It's
I think, spray on cheese. You put it on a cracker, and I have appetizers.
Yeah. And I would get care packages and write letters, and I think Jane's probably got them here. She's a good person for the records.
The letters,
are
so important to our history.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you can see. These are the letters my grandparents wrote to my dad.
Yes. Yeah.
So
but if he was a prisoner of war, he probably didn't get too many of those.
They wrote him letters, and he would get them 4 or 5 months later.
Where was he kept? Where was he?
In Germany.
Wow.
Yeah, he was German POW. POWs, so that the Americans didn't know where they were. He spent a lot of time in Stalag 3, but he was moved to 4. He was moved to 7A. And then they did the march. So they marched him in circles in the middle of winter in Germany. And they ended up
starving and freezing.
Nothing to eat.
No.
One of the people in his crew on the march died because he was starving, and the elements, they weren't dressed right.
No.
They didn't have coats. Some of them didn't have shoes. The guards that were marching with him, a lot of them died on the trail, and they just left them there.
Yeah, and if you think about the equipment we had in Vietnam, boots, clothing, compared to the World War II guys and the Korea guys, it was like night and day.
You were living in luxury, honey.
That's right. That's right. Better jackets, better long johns.
How was your family when you came home?
They were thankful, and then my brother got drafted in 71.
So you were home.
He came back at 71.
Okay. Was he gone at the same time you were gone?
No, I gave him the papers. He was drafted. So he went in, and he ended up over there, too.
He was in the Army, too?
Yeah.
And then what was his job there?
It was amazing because he had a background in the restaurant business at the junior college. And he didn't even go through AIT. He went through basic training, sent him to Fort Knox, and he was cook for the NCO Academy there. And then something happened politically there. I think he saw things that weren't right and maybe said something off and ended up, here, you're going to Vietnam. That's how they kind of sweep things under.
That's how they do it.
I think politics
does a lot.
Yeah, even small communities like.
What did he do over there? Did he cook?
Yeah, he was in charge of the mess over there.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
And ran into another buddy, was in a transportation thing, and he said, "I saw your brother's picture hanging up in the headquarters." They must have had a thing of
that's great.
This competition thing.
That's really
I was not aware of that.
Did you see any changes from when you first went into the military to when you ended?
In my brain? Or
either.
No, it was, if you think about it, it was 24 months to go from a kid and end up in a very hot combat area and come back home and then just everything's okay, but it's not. Jane said my mom could see a change. My dad, just you saw a lot. They send the young people to war.
For a reason.
Yeah, and we weren't really at war. And take Jane out on a date, go to a party and knew some of the people. And the first thing, I'm there for 15 minutes and they asked me how many, babies you killed or mutilated people. And I got her and I said, I'm sorry, I have to leave. I can't.
Everybody thought that they thought that was everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were very misinformed.
And just war's brutal when you start shooting. Everything I got involved with, 2 events, were at nighttime. The bullets, they had green tracers, we had red tracers. I got pictures of the Snoopy, the miniguns at nighttime from helicopters. It's not, you don't know them. You're supposed to hate them. You're supposed to do this or that. But if you think about it, it was like our Revolutionary War. They would hide behind a tree and shoot the British, I guess. So war, maybe the Ukraine and the Russian thing right now and the Israelis. I mean, if you look at it, and a lot of it still is centered around religion. Everything, I remember being a kid in the Crusades and it showed a silk scarf coming and a sharp knife, and I'm like, what's going on? I'm in like the 5th grade or 6th grade. I don't know.
Has your service inspired anybody else?
To enlist?
Mm-hmm.
No, not especially in my time. My son didn't go in and my daughter. It's actually, we're in Colorado with a good friend of ours. He was a year ahead of me in high school and he became a colonel with the Air Force. Took us through the Air Force Academy. But he went through, just like my neighbor here, ROTC, mm-hmm. and got commissioned and then stayed in.
When you came back from Vietnam, mm-hmm. on your flight back, how were you received?
I went from Oakland. They got me in a cab. It's nighttime, Golden Gate Bridge. I'm running down to get on the plane, TWA, and they'd closed the door. And I was in uniform, and then they opened it, got me in a place to sit down, and I ordered a drink. I fell asleep, and they landed in Kansas City and then here. And everything was okay, but there was some people that really didn't like. But we lived in a rural community more than, mm-hmm. If you look at the pictures of the reflection pool in Washington, D.C., and burning the flags and all that stuff. And that's why I didn't stay in the reserves or National Guard, continue. But I look back at 20 years service, I would have been 39, had a nice pension. I would have still worked and did
Well, you were still
career.
Young when you got out.
That's
you were
right.
still a kid.
That's right.
I mean, you look at your kids.
I was
they were that
21,
age.
yeah.
21. I mean, I remember my son when he was 21. He was still a kid.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like I had to learn to keep, where's my wallet? I had our friend, he just turned 82. So he got enough extensions that he was, 4 or 5 years older than me, and he kind of mothered me. And then you just do it, And some of the guys you were with are not here anymore. And some of it was related to what I'm kind of with the chemicals and but I've been very healthy. I've never spent a night in a hospital, but I think it might change on April 4th.
We all have to have our health issues. Some of us don't have health issues till we're 110.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing.
I think so. And I've been fortunate. So I have no complaint.
Is there anything else I should have asked you?
I think I babbled enough on civilian life and tornadoes that tore up the city.
It is the Midwest.
Yeah. And I think every day is a bonus.
You've always been a positive person.
Oh, yeah. You have to. If I really thought I would have stayed working for Nabisco, I would have also been retired when I was about 40. They wanted to send me to New York City and Kansas. I said, I want to stay here. Mama's boy. You could only refuse, I know, so many times before they go.
That's it. So
I guess I should have been thrilled they thought enough of me to send me to those bigger markets.
Is there anything else you'd like to share?
I think we did it.
Okay.
But I was no hero or anything, just one of gazillions.
You were one of gazillion heroes.
Yeah. Wow.
To me, I never thought about the military. I never really knew anybody.
Wow.
I mean, I had classmates, but we weren't close enough to say, well, how was it or anything like that.
And I was not even upset at the conscientious objectives that didn't go. It didn't bother me. I just knew with my family, I wasn't going to do that.
From the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you.
You're welcome.
If you are a veteran, or if you know someone who is, I urge you to share your story. Whether you fought in battle or worked behind the scenes, your experience matters. It's not just history, it's our history. It's a history we cannot afford to lose. At Legends of the Barbed Wire Hotel, we are committed to preserving these stories, but we need your help. Subscribe and share it with your friends and family. And most importantly, if you have a story to tell, reach out to us on social media or email. Both are listed in our description. Every veteran story deserves to be heard, remembered, and honored. So join us in this journey. Together, we can ensure that the legends of the Barbed Wire Hotel live on. This is Diana Maul Halstead, the Kriegie's daughter, signing off. Thank you for listening, and to all veterans, thank you from the bottom of my heart for your service and your sacrifice. If you would like to purchase a copy of my dad's memoir, Writings from the Barbed Wire Hotel, click the link in the description. In the back of almost 800 pages is an index of all the sources I used to research my dad's military career and time as a prisoner of war. Let's spread the word and keep these stories alive. And remember, every story matters, especially yours. Legends of the Barbed Wire Hotel was written by and produced by Diana Maul Halstead, the Kriegie's daughter. Until next time, this is Legends of the Barbed Wire Hotel. Stay safe, stay strong, and never forget the sacrifices made for our freedom. Thanks for listening.